afternoon. My name is Oliver Pike and I'm a student director on the ARC board and student fellow with UNSW colleges. I'm a proud Wiradjuri Nyamba man who grew up in Western New South Wales in a town called Dubbo. I'm currently a fourth and final year fine arts and secondary education student. Today, it is my great pleasure to host the Prepping for Success Budgeting 101 event, and I would like to give a warm welcome to all our commencing students online today. Whether you are commencing your studies on campus or tuning in virtually, we are thrilled you are joining the UNSW community. I would like to show my respects and acknowledge the Bidjigal, Gadigal and Ngunnawal people who are the traditional custodians of the land of which UNSW campuses stand, and of elders past who are here with us in spirit, those present guiding us through the ways, and those of the future, the youth through our ranks. Prepping for Success is a virtual event series that aims to introduce first years to a range of university systems, support services, and tools to help ensure a smooth transition into university. As a student, I know firsthand how confusing and overwhelming starting your UNSW journey can be, and really encourage you to take advantage of all the events on offer as part of the series, as well as the Q&A sessions, which are at the end of each event. Now, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Michael Davidson, who is a student support advisor at UNSW, who is here to share some really practical tips on how to budget and manage your money effectively as you start this new and exciting chapter. Michael.
Thank you, Ollie. Much appreciated for the introduction. And welcome everyone, as Ollie said, be it virtually or on campus. Thank you for sticking around as well for a Friday afternoon for O Week. We'll get started in 1 second. I'll just touch on what we do as a role. So as Oliver said, I'm a student support advisor. In an ideal world on campus, we're based in the John Goodsall building on the ground floor. Budgeting is one of our, I guess, kind of experienced areas that we focus on. I'll go into more what we focus on at the end of the presentation. So let's get started. What we're going to focus on today are these. So what are your needs versus wants when it comes to financing, budgeting and spending? What are spending leaks and how you can possibly fix them? What are some smart goals you can work towards? Budgeting, what it means, and some ideas on how to. And saving and spending goals, both at uni and possibly in your outside of uni life as well. Starting off, needs versus wants. Now, some questions as we go through this, think of them as hypothetical situations, what you do in your situation. First things first, defining the needs versus the wants when it comes to budgeting. You can see on the screen there, think of what is important in your family or to you. What do you want? So things that you want to spend on, but could wait for down the track. So some ideas there. It could be foods, it could be takeaways, it could be external expenses, it could be online shopping, it could be clothing, it could be shoes purchases, things that are important, but not as important as the needs in your life. So what do you need to have to be healthy? Need to survive day to day. So things such as your groceries, the bills to be paid, the internet, your rental property costs, university fees, laptop fees, things that are more important than the wants. So think of it as the needs that you need to save for as a priority. The wants are things that you can save for later on down the track. Okay. Think of it as a term as like a bit of a, I guess, a money journey, how you spend your money. Hypothetically, do you focus more on needs or more on wants? So you can kind of think now, okay, what do I purchase that I can actually focus more on a need? And what can I purchase later down the track that is a want that I really want, but that can wait for me as a less of a priority than what's important now. spending leaks, and how much are your wants? So how much are your wants costing you? Because they do add up over time, and that's where financial stress, financial pressure comes into it. And look, that's where students will often come to see us as student advisors, asking for budgeting help, financial help, possible assistance as well, or some external help just to get their spending back on track. So how much are your wants costing you? Okay, think about that. If you have heard of the term spending leak, again, hypothetically, think of what it might mean. What are those little leaks in your account, in your spending system, that can be plugged up? Okay, those little extra costs you have per week, per fortnight, per month that aren't necessary, but when you come to the end of the week, the end of the fortnight, the end of the month, that's money that's been spent on the wants that could have and possibly should have been saved more towards the needs. Okay, so a spending leak, it's an amount of money that over time is almost spent unconsciously to purchase regular items and that add up over time to a significant amount of money. Once you're aware of that leak, the very first step, as I said, is to plug it. Okay, so plug that leak by either not purchasing that wanted item at all, by cutting back on the regular spending of that item or those items, looking for cheaper alternatives, so those saving alternatives that you can buy. And then there'll be questions later on where we'll go into this further as well. Using the SMART goal setting. So again, it's what you may have heard of before, even with university and study goals. You can use this towards your financial and budgeting goals as well. Okay, so a goal for budgeting that is specific, a goal that is measurable, okay, a goal that can be achievable, and that's important. A realistic goal that you know you can achieve over a certain amount of time, realistic and timed. Okay, so you can roughly work on giving yourself a time frame, a week, a fortnight, a month, a uni term to set that SMART goal. Then over time, this will hopefully become routine. Okay, so think of goals such as I want to be financially secure, or I don't want to be in a position where I'm stressed about money. Yes, they're valid, but they can be vague and difficult to be implemented. With these SMART goals, they are specific, make them measurable, make them realistic, and make them timed, okay? Think about that hypothetically coming into this term, okay? Not necessarily now, but think about, right, what SMART goals can I work on? Where are my spending leaks going to stop? Where can I save more? So cancelling online subscriptions, fewer takeaways per week or in a fortnight. As hard as can be, less coffees or less juices over the week, little things like that. I mean, you might think, okay, that's only saving $10, $20, $30, $40 a week. Yeah, possibly. That's $80 or $100 a fortnight. That's $200, $300, $400 a month. Then think, all right, if I've got that savings in another offset account or tucked away, then all right, that's an extra week's rent. That's an extra phone bill. Okay, that's extra groceries that I don't have to stress about because I've got savings there. Okay, and I've said to a lot of students before, many students, you're allowed as a uni student at times to be, I guess, tight with your money because you've got to focus on the needs to get through. SMART goals and spending leaks. So again, think for a few seconds, if you do have spending leaks, how much are they impacting the achievement of your financial goals? And maybe what we mentioned about earlier with the takeaways, with the coffees, with the subscriptions, with the online shoppings, with those almost unconscious spendings. Think for a few seconds, all right, how are they impacting, or how possibly could they be impacting my future spending. And then think, okay, if you were to remove a few of those wants from your earlier list, how much could you save per week? How much could you save per fortnight? How much would this affect each week to achieve the financial goals that you set yourself? And then you might start to see, okay, I can slowly start to see how this may be able to be achieved. It's not going to happen overnight, I'll be honest. It's something as you need to work on and stick with and develop a routine, develop good habits, like anything, like a study routine, like a timetable, like a schedule. It's not going to happen at the flick of a switch. You've got to persist and stick with it. Even just slowly removing a few of those little wants, you'll start to notice where the savings are going to be in your favour. All right, so planning ahead. Daily planning, weekly or fortnightly planning, or annual planning. It's really about what suits you. I mean, for those that are working, hopefully still a good few of us during COVID. We know that's hit a lot of students in a pocket. But think of, say, hypothetically, the paycheck that you get, whether you get paid weekly or fortnightly or monthly, that's generally a good guide to plan ahead on when you can save and set those goals. So if you get paid fortnightly, set some goals for fortnightly. Okay, if you're getting paid weekly, set some weekly amounts and weekly goals. It's important that you have a very good idea on what you're regularly spending on, so that you can begin to take control, to plan ahead, to identify, and importantly, fix those little leaks and any budget concerns that you have. So again, you'll regularly get your bills, your rent, your phone, your internet, those fees, those regular bills will come out, those regular costs. Roughly plan ahead for what you think that you need for that week or that fortnight or that month. Okay, obviously groceries will come into it. Okay, so you roughly should know what you're spending per week, per fortnight on groceries. Keep that aside. You know what your rental cost is per week. Keep that aside. Okay, you know what the internet and your phone bill is roughly per week, per fortnight. Keep that aside. Okay, so those needs, those important costs, have a rough idea of what they're going to cost. Then you can kind of match it up with the money that you've got, and preferably, hopefully, if there is some left over, start saving that. You can create another savings account, put that aside. So yeah, when it comes for a rainy day or a few months down the track and you've got some extra money there, then buy that want. Okay, because you've worked towards it, you've earned it. It could be an end-of-term reward or a census date reward, something along those lines. Okay. It can be tempting, I know, to kind of bury your head in the sand, so to speak. But look, knowledge is power. It's not just from us. You can kind of look at, there's many different apps out there, speak to the banks, kind of what your budget is, what can you afford, and stick to that. Gather knowledge, kick it old school. Spending diary, write down your kind of costs, use the apps, use the notes in your phone, a daily or kind of like weekly recording of what you're spending. But importantly, it does come down to you. Try and get into the habit yourself. It's about, and it's cliche, I know, it's about adulting. Try and get in that habit yourself. You might spreadsheet it, you might download the apps. Money Smart is one app. Spend Tracker is another app. Budget with an F, is another app, and one that's called Pocketbook. Okay, for those with them, I guess the 4 or 5 major banks, they've got some good apps as well, and they'll take you through step-by-step guides on how to create a budget that suits your lifestyle. All right, annual budgets. In layman's terms there, what is a budget? As you can see, it's a way of planning your spending. kind of evening out the major costs in your life and budgeting and saving and ensuring that you have enough finance to get by to afford what you need. Just some examples there on the screen. You can see your food and groceries, house, mortgage or rental costs. If you do drive, an idea there is for petrol costs. Yes, you can see in the orange little pie there, entertainment. That's important, but that's more of a want when it comes up. And you've got your equipment, your laptops, your textbooks, your resources and things along those lines. Okay, you might be able to divvy it out as an annual budget. And then once you've done that, create your monthly budget. And again, half that into a fortnight budget. So it kind of breaks down to what you can afford and what you can cost. Kind of, you can divvy it up as well. Think of what a spending diary is, something that's kind of more of a tool for your daily spending, like a daily tracker. A budget, think of as more of a tool for larger, regular, ongoing costs and ongoing bills, direct debits, things that are going to come out that you need to budget for. Okay, so what does a budget do? It lets you know if you're living within your means and what you can afford. It keeps track of the money that you regularly earn. So it could be from wages, money from parents, from salary, interest from bank accounts. There are those that might be on Centrelink and things along those lines. So that's what's called your income. So money that's coming in to you, that's your income. A budget also focuses on your money that you regularly spend, outgoings or expenses, rent, food, bills, mobile bills, direct debits, equipment, that's your expenses. And a budget helps you plan for the week, plan for the fortnight, plan for the month, and then for the year ahead, and importantly, for the lifestyle that you can afford. You might see friends and family and people around you spending more and more and more and thinking, okay, why can't I do that? They might be spending a bit frivolously, or it might be what they can afford. Try not to get caught up in that. Focus on what you can afford, okay? That's the important thing. It's a critical tool for helping you work out how much money you need to put away each week or each fortnight or each payday to be able to cover the regular bills, the regular needs when they come in. All right, so this is just a possible example of a fortnightly budget. So you can see on the table here, $850 per fortnight is the wage coming in, and you've got expenses there. So I won't go through them all, but you can see $400 in rent, $30 in power, $20 for a phone, credit card, debt, entertainment. Total expenses there add up to $800 per fortnight. You've got $50 left over, okay? Save that, put that away, okay? You might create another savings account or a NetBank saver account. That's $50 a fortnight, that's $100 a month. Again, come 4 weeks, $100 a month over the term, 3-4 months per term. You've saved a couple of $100 per term. That's when you get you want. That's when you can put your money towards what it is that you really need, okay? Right, and this is just like a bit of a kind of a visual idea. So what the cost of things and smart spending might look like. Okay, so you can see some ideas on if you're going to say like a 7-Eleven or a milk bar store, petrol, supermarket, and a chain supermarket. Just some ideas on what might cost more over a regular amount of time. At uni especially, it can feel like, trust me, it can feel like you're barely getting by financially, but it is possible to work out your budget and work towards savings goals. Ideally, you need to be saving more than you're spending, and that does take practice and a bit of control, we know, to achieve this. Okay, the importance of understanding the cost of things, where you're getting your value for money, looking for specials. Again, you're a uni student, you're allowed to do this. That can't be underestimated. Some ideas on keeping costs down. Notebook or write a shopping list. Have a rough idea on what those needs will cost and what those things will cost. Part your needs from your wants. Separate your needs from your wants. Be vigilant with that as much as possible. A good tip, never shop or never go out when you're feeling hungry, because you will buy a lot more than you bargained for. Know when foods are cheap. If you know your regular supermarkets, normally you'll see your deals, those yellow or red tags. Know when shelves are getting stacked and know when foods are cheap. Buy in bulk if you can, and buy when things are on special. Okay, so you've got more there to cook for more dinners and more lunches. Choose the home brands where possible. They still taste totally fine, trust me. Explore cheaper shopping alternatives. Split shopping with friends if needs be, if you can. Compare prices of items from supermarket. There might be different sizes or different weights. Any leftover change you have, or any kind of leftover cash or leftover savings you have, put it aside. Bank it fortnightly, bank it monthly in your savings account, and don't touch that until you need to. Okay, think of it, it's only a saving if you actually save and put away the money, and not if you spend it elsewhere on a regular basis. Definitely, as I said, at the end of that month, keep some want money, keep some mad money to spend on a treat, shopping, purchase, going out, maybe a weekend away. Plan your meals ahead and use the items, if you can, that you already have in your pantry to compensate and make meals in that way. Right, some local shopping tips about being money savvy. We've gone through a bit there. Okay, but consider some of these tips, because we know that financial struggles can be real for all of us in one way or another, sometimes through our life. Some money savvy tips, and I'm hoping a few places still do this. If you've got your student ID card, use it. Okay, concessions for public transport, concessions for sporting events, for shopping events, movies. If they still use it as your uni card, ask. The savings on that may be minor, but it's a saving. Think of alternate entertainment options. If you are heading out once or twice a week, maybe not so often in the COVID world, but once we do get back to reality, if you do, instead of going to a restaurant on regular times, cook a feast at home or share cooking with a friend. Okay, instead of going regularly out, getting takeaways, use that. So shop, buy in bulk, cook with friends, swap meals, share stories. You've got leftovers for uni the next day or two. Okay, that saves a lot of money. Instead of going to the movies, bring the movies to you. Have a movie night in. Netflix it, scan it, use that, bring the popcorn to you, bring the friends to you, so you're not spending a lot on the movie tickets. Look for student nights or weekly specials. Okay, get a group together during the week or each fortnight. Often, restaurants, pubs, local cafes will often have cheaper midweek deals during the nights and uni deals at times. Make it a thing with friends for a catch up. Okay. Bring lunch from home as well. Those leftovers are more often than not, they're so much better the next day once that food is soaked through. Bring it into university. And the same applies for your coffee or your tea. If you've got a travel mug, bring that in as well. Finally, probably hard in this area, be realistic. Be willing to make sacrifices at times with your money. The reality is that money, more often than not as a uni student, will be limited while you're studying. Be realistic, be strict with yourself on what you can afford, and at times definitely be prepared to make some financial sacrifices. All right, so what we as student support can offer. Okay, so 1 hour consultations. At the moment, it's virtual. Okay, so it's through Teams, through Zoom, or through via the phone, through our booking system. As said earlier, in an ideal world, when we do our face-to-face appointments, we're based in the John Goodsell building, just to the left of the central lecture block. They can be once, or for a lot of students, we have ongoing appointments just for accountability, for catch-ups, to check-ins, working on goals, working on time management, acute mental health issues, financial matters, accommodation matters as well. We liaise with a lot of other groups on campus and a lot of other colleagues through student experience, through ELP, through our CAPS team, so our counselling and psychologist teams, through faculty, through staff in the nucleus. If we can't answer it, we will direct you in the right direction. So for financial appointments, all are assessed on a case-by-case basis. Documentation is required for assessments along with personal statements, just so we can see your financial situation. And if required, we'll ask for further documentation, just to gain a bit more of an understanding. As said earlier, accommodation support, so through emergency and crisis accommodation we offer, referrals for on and off-campus accommodation, and that comes back into budgeting as well. So what you can afford rental-wise per week, we deal with bonds as well. Self-efficacy and advocacy skills, so your self-management with procrastination, stress, low-level anxiety, and we do deal with critical incidents and students at risk as well. And lastly, where to find us. There are our website links. John Goodsell Building, ground floor. The Nucleus Student Hub, so we'll have one person when we're back on campus, hopefully very soon, working out of one of the rooms in the Nucleus, room 7 or room 8, I believe. And you book online, meet the consultation room. We also do have at the moment, Monday to Friday, 1 till 4, we do have a virtual queue for shorter appointments, about 10 to 15 minutes long, for more quicker queries. So we do have our virtual queue from 1 till 4. And now it's over to Oliver and you as students. If there are any questions that are on your mind, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much for that, Michael, for your insightful presentation and wise words. I'm sure everyone online learnt something new about managing their finances in this session. Something that I definitely pulled out of it was something you said close to the start about unconscious spendings, and I really liked that word because I do wake up in the morning and just on the way to work or on the way to class, yeah, I'll just get a coffee, I'll just do that, and it all adds up. Like, and it's when you start to think about it, it's like, and then you write it all down and you're like, wow, that's actually a lot of money that I've just spent on a shot of coffee like every week. And but yeah, I think, yeah, no, that's something that we all need to be aware of, those unconscious spendings that just happen. But it is now time for the Q&A, and this is a great opportunity for you to ask any questions you may have to Michael before you commence the term. Please type any questions you have in the Q&A chat box. Just a quick reminder to keep an eye on the chat box so you can like any questions that you would like to be answered quicker, and you can upvote questions so they are answered more quickly. To get us started, the first question that I do have here for you is, what are some ways and techniques to save?
Good question. I'd say there are probably a few ways that I could think of. As hard as it can be, try and set yourself a spending limit. Okay, so for the week or the fortnight, set a spending limit. Try and stick to it as much as possible. If you're not exact with it, don't stress. But again, that'll come with practice. Write down a budget. So either on your apps, you know, it's old school pen and paper, write down a budget, roughly what you're spending per week, as you said, so that coffee or that little stop during the week, whether it be 5-6 times a week, make it 2-3 times a week if you can, and you'll see those savings there. The main bills that come through, if you can set them up direct debit when you get paid or on a date, so you know it's coming out then, so you know you've got to have money for that certain date. So it might be your internet, your phone, those kind of bills that are direct debited, set that up. Another thing you can do is discuss with providers to set up payment plans and to see what can be done. A lot are being fairly generous, fairly lenient during COVID times. So through your phone, your internet, rates, even with fees as well. the least you can do is ask and see what payment plan can be set up for you. More often than not, as long as XYZ provider is getting money in, they'll be happy to set up a payment plan. But if you don't ask, you won't know.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think I was saying this to someone the other day. If you don't ask, you will never find out the answer. And if you're thinking it, most likely so is someone else. So it's always best to ask the question and get it answered. And people are always willing to help. So yeah, just ask away. This next question I have here for you is, as we all know, one of the absolute biggest costs for a student in Sydney who doesn't live at home is rent. What do you consider a roughly normal weekly amount for rent for a student to pay? That's a few questions here. So roughly weekly amount for rent for a student to pay, and do you have any financial tips for renting in Sydney?
We know Sydney rent can be doom and gloom. I'm very well aware of that. A good idea before getting into a rough amount, the uni's got a website and a link called UNSW Study Stays. Okay, so that's for off-campus accommodation. You can filter down accommodation that's either near the Kensington or the COFA, the campus at Paddington, and put in what your budget is. Okay, so look, a good idea, you can get some decent ones for about $300, $350 a week. Whether it's, and this is entirely a personal choice, whether it's single, whether it's shared, what the lease is as well. A very important tip, keep an eye out for the fine print, see what lease it is, see what, if you can, either get an online or a personal viewing to see what condition the property's in. And before jumping into it, David and Linda, who work through ARC, we refer students to them a lot because they know that, like the back of their hand, New South Wales fair trading, renting policies, just so, to put it bluntly, so uni students don't get taken advantage of by landlords. And that's one strong recommendation. Look, there are some good one betters out there for about $350. It also depends on, I guess, how close you want or can afford to be to campus as well. So keeping that in mind, if you're a bit further away from campus, then are you driving to campus? Will that equate to public transport costs as well? So keep that in mind. But I'd say a good rule of thumb is looking for about $350. You'll be able to find something pretty decent out there. But speak to ARC, speak to your real estate, speak to us before jumping into it.
Absolutely, yeah. Speak to the experts out there. And may I add, all of the ARC experts and then the student support services at UNSW, they are all confidential, and majority of them are free to my knowledge as well. So there's no need to stress about your case being exposed or anything. It's all confidential, and they're there to help you.
Exactly right. And if they need appointments with us, even if they think it's a ridiculous question, like I said before, Ollie, if you don't ask, we won't know what help you need. So if even it's a 10-15 minute chat, please feel free to make an appointment just for your peace of mind. Absolutely.
This next question is, can you recommend any applications for our phone that manage our budget? Can you recommend any applications for our phone to manage our budget, maybe, or
like the ones that were mentioned before during the presentation? So there was the Money Smart and Money Finder apps. There's one called Fudget, so budget with an F. And generally through your banks, they'll have the online applications as well. We'll go through the step-by-step, but I know we recommend your Money Smart, Money Budget, Money Finder, Money Smart, and Fudget as well. They generally do a very good job, but if you are even speaking to your local banks, if you're with them, they'll have the apps there that will take you through a step-by-step budgeting guide.
Absolutely. The next question is, maybe we can do this one towards the end when we wrap it up, but it says, "Hi Michael, could you please post the apps of the budget track you mentioned previously here? Thank you very much." Oh, very nice. Thank you for saying all that. Yeah, maybe we can do that right at the end and just type it all through. This next one is, do you have any tips for people with varying income, e.g. as a musician, tutor, visual artist? I deal with invoicing and sometimes will make heaps in a month and sometimes make barely nothing in the other.
It's a good question. Look, I guess with varying income, that gets a little bit tougher. So it's hard to know which month is going to be better for you. I guess if you do have a good month, definitely keep more aside, because I guess you don't know what month is going to be great, what month's not going to be so good. I guess it comes back to knowing your limitations, knowing what your needs are, and saving for those costs. So if you have a great month, okay, brilliant, I'm going to make this a priority. What needs are going to be spent first? So okay, I have a great month, I'm going to pay off that phone bill, that internet bill, put it towards rent. If you've got anything that's left over, then yeah, save that. Most definitely save that. Speak to, if you've got to, speak to your bank about it as well, because they'll have some great tips in regards to what possible accounts might be a good idea, whether it be like fixed accounts, variable accounts, what's going to be the best saver for you as well. But yeah, look, on the good months, try not to go too overboard. Don't spend too many on those wants. Definitely save a lot more than you want, because like you said, the next month mightn't be as fruitful as the previous month. So definitely save as much as you can for those needs. But keep a bit in the back pocket after you've budgeted for those needs and those important costs. I hope that's helped. It is a tricky situation at times, I know that, but I hope that's helped in some way.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of help. I personally myself, I'm a visual artist as well, and I do commissions and all of this sort of stuff. And for that person asking that question, yeah, I really, when I get that money, I do those needs as soon as possible. The food, all the needs that, and for me that is petrol in the car as well, so I can get to certain places. So I get that all done, and I don't go out and buy lunch. But I used to buy the coffee, but now I might just take that back one.
We all still need a coffee. I can totally understand that, don't worry.
Absolutely. Thank you for that one. The next question that we have is, this is very true. Is there any way to find all of the random subscriptions you've forgotten about and cancel?
Oh, that's a good question. That I'm actually not entirely 100% sure. There would have to be a way, but I know with those subscriptions as well, it would be about either contacting or emailing or calling, but then don't stop it there. Make sure that whether it be that Netflix, that Stan, that health fund subscription, whatever, ensure that they reply to you either through email, through phone, and the money stops coming out. Because just by emailing or talking to them, it doesn't stop there, because it's happened to me once or twice before when I thought certain subscriptions, certain health funds have been cancelled, but then next month, that still came out. So it's about kind of dealing with them, dealing with your bank, making sure that it doesn't come out, and getting confirmation from them that it has been stopped. Whether there's ways or not you can put blocks on it, I'm not sure, but it's about a bit of responsibility to you, I'd say, would be to follow up several times to make sure that those subscriptions have definitely been stopped. Yeah, that's a good question.
All right. The next question is, how much or what percentage of our pay should we be putting aside for buying a house?
Rule of thumb, generally what I was told, and I'm not sure if it's entirely true, was roughly about a third. So whether you get paid weekly, fortnightly, monthly, if you can afford to put a third aside, or I guess a quarter would be fine. Because especially with deposits and mortgages, I'm not sure if it's in Sydney or not, but that's going through the roof at the moment. If you can afford that, and again, that's going to come back to balancing it out with what your needs are. And then that might be going back to what I was saying previously in speaking to your providers to set up payment plans, etc., so that if that's a priority, which is a ridiculously big priority, so you've got a bit extra to set aside for a house, then it's going to come into speaking to real estate agents, speaking to banks as well to see possibly what loans you can get, what you can afford, what your credit rating is as well, to kind of start the ball rolling in that sense. But I'd say if you can put a quarter to a third aside, that'd be a good starting point. It's nothing, and this is so much easier said than done. It's nothing to get too massively stressed about in the interim. But if you can afford, look, a starting point, if you start to put a quarter away or 10, 15, 20% away, that's a start, okay? Whether there's a time limit on when you want that house, I'm not sure, but if you start putting that away bit by bit, that's all going to add up.
Awesome, thank you so much for that. The next question we have is, what is the average amount of HECS debt for students?
Oh, geez. That'll vary. I know that my wife just recently paid hers off, and that I think would have been about, over time, I think it was about 10 to 15 to 20,000. But again, that'll vary with what you can afford, who's helping with your pay, what course or what degree you're doing as well. But it would roughly be between, from what I know, and I could be wrong, but from experience, it's roughly about between 10 to 20 grand. And again, that's a great need. So you can start to slowly put money away for that per month as well, just so you know, and have that direct debited. So that's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But you might put away $50, $100, $150, $200 a month kind of thing to get that sorted. Doesn't sound like much, but you go 200 by 12, there's $2.5 grand a year. That'll start paying itself off.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. This next one, I do really like this question. How can I be accountable with my spending?
Is that just you or for everyone? Student out there? Yes. Look, let's be honest, it is tough. And whether it comes back to noting, writing down, apping what you spend, it could be similar to study. You've got to be that accountable for your routine, for your time management, for your balance. This comes back to talking to friends about it, having posters, having images on the fridge, kind of on the back of the bedroom door saying, oh, this is what I'm going to spend this week. Write down an approximate needs kind of shopping list, maybe for a week or fortnight. Try and stick to it as much as possible. It'll come with habit, and good habits lead into a good lifestyle habit. So that'll help the accountability. Setting up direct debits for your account as well, and making sure that you know exactly what amount's going in there. Writing your budget, talking to providers as well, because you're the one who's got to get the ball rolling. Because if you're just getting money taken out at whatever cost they've agreed to, that's fine, but that's their win. If you don't talk to the providers, if you're not being accountable for yourself to see what best deals are out there, then that could be money that you're not being able to save for yourself. But you've got to be, it's about writing it down, being vigilant. As soon as you get money in from the income, put a certain amount away. So if you say, all right, I'm going to put 50 away this week, I'm going to put 100 away this week, do it straight away. Have it directly transferred to another account so you don't forcefully have to do it. Have it set up so a certain amount goes to another savings account, and that's out of sight, out of mind. So you know that, okay, yeah, that's $100 less for me that I'm getting, but it's $100 going towards something that I'm saving towards.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Before I move on to the next question, I'd just like to say to the listeners out there that our time is wrapping up. So if you have any final questions, put them in the chat box and we'll try and get to them as soon as we can. The next question that I do have for you, Michael, is why is it important to be money savvy?
It'll save, I guess it saves a lot of self-stress and worry for you as an individual. Especially as a uni student. So when it comes to not needing to worry to come to us or the bank to ask for loans or for grants, or whether embarrassed is the right word, to ask others for money, but it teaches you that responsibility, which leads to other lifestyle habits. So it's about being accountable for yourself. It's about teaching yourself the right habits and being a confident saver and a confident spender is going to develop that routine and those habits later in life. So as you start to kind of wean off those regular takeaways or regular lunch spendings or regular coffee spendings, and you start to realize bit by bit that I don't need to do it this often, that'll fall into some other habits into your life as well. It gives you that self-confidence knowing that, yeah, you know what, if I can save here, then I can save elsewhere as well. If I can put that money away per fortnight and per month, then I know I'm going to be rewarded at the end of the year, at the end of the month, for what that little treat is going to be, that little want that I can afford. So it makes you feel, I guess, a lot less stressed and a lot better about yourself, knowing that I can actually do this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for you today, Michael. Thank you so much for all those questions out there, and thank you, Michael, for answering them. If we didn't get to your question, or if you didn't get time to ask your question, book an appointment with a student support advisor, with David or Linda at ARC if it's rental, and they can help where they can. Before I let you go, I wanted to let you know that we have our final Prepping for Success event, studying online and remotely, taking place this afternoon. If you are interested in attending, please register via the Prepping for Success website, and which we will post in the chat box very soon. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found this session helpful and wish you all the best for term 1. If you have any questions following this event, please visit the Nucleus online, chat, or book an appointment, as I said before, with the UNSW support advisors. These links will be posted in the chat very soon. Thank you so much, Michael, once again, and thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day.
Well, thanks, Oliver. Thanks, students. Best of luck for term 1.